Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Annalisa and this is Homemade Sunshine. So this week I'm going to be sharing with you guys the books I have read for the months of March and April. So to start off this video, we'll be jumping to some of my reviews of my library books. Hey y'all, I am back with some more library recommendations for you guys today. I've got 3 really good books. I checked out 4, but one of them I only got through the first 20 pages and I didn't really like it, so I'm not going to review that one because I feel like I can't give a good review if I only read 20 pages. So we're just going to skip that one. It was just bringing up some issues that I don't really care to read about. So we will get started. So first, I always use my bookmark to cover up our little thing where it says what my library's name is. But this is The Natural Cozy Cottage, 100 Styling Ideas to Create a Warm and Welcoming Home by Christiane, I hope that's how you say it, Belstedt Myers. That is really a hard name to say. So this is what the front cover looks like. I have to cover up like the entire title to hide where our library name is. So that is super cute. And then here's the back. Also just absolutely gorgeous. This has gorgeous photos in it. I'll show you some. If you're into like cottage style, like English cottage sort of vibes, she has little sections where she tells you like some of the DIYs that she's done. Let me find a good like overall picture that she's shown. Oh, like look at her dining room. Is this not so pretty with those curtains and that light fixture? I just really enjoyed this. I actually read everything in here, and you guys know from my last time that I don't always read decor books because sometimes they're just kind of redundant, you know? I don't know. That might be, I don't want it to sound presumptuous, but sometimes it is just kind of redundant, and I'm like, yeah, you can go to thrift stores and find stuff. Like, I just get bored with it. But look at her oven. Look at that. Absolutely stunning. I loved reading about where she got all of these different things, and she has a very good like speaking voice in her writing. Just very realistic, like you were talking to a friend and she was showing you her house. So I highly recommend this book. I really enjoyed it. If I ever found it like at a secondhand shop, I would buy it and keep it on my shelf, which is saying a lot. I really, really enjoyed this book. So The Natural Cozy Cottage. And the title is really like describes the book. It's a natural home, it's a cozy home, it's a cottage style home. And that is like totally my vibe. I love that style. So next is, let me cover this one up. This one you'll be able to see the majority of it. Loretta Lynn, Me and Patsy Kicking Up Dust, My Friendship with Patsy Cline. And I loved this book. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. It was great. It was an awesome book. This is written by Patsy Cline, discussing her memories with, reverse that. It was written by Loretta Lynn, talking about her memories with Patsy Cline, who, as if you are aware of, I feel like it's not a spoiler because this happened a long time ago, but she was killed in a plane accident, and it's all about their friendship. It's beautiful. It'll make you tear up. It's just about the, like, importance of women supporting each other. They were coming into a really male-dominated field at the time in country music, and how they stood their ground, the things that Patsy taught Loretta, and just how beautiful their friendship was, and how they were always able to pick up the other one when somebody was down. Like, they were just, you know, it was like they were like soulmates, best friends. And a couple warnings, there's a lot of swearing, but not in like a, I don't know, it's just how they were speaking at the time, so it doesn't feel like gregarious, like it's not overly used, it's not overabundant. I thought it added to the humor of it somewhat. These are 2 women that were raised in poverty. Loretta was like raised in like the backwoods country, but both came out of pretty extreme poverty, so that like influences their speaking in some ways. And then there's also some mature content. Like, I wouldn't let your 16-year-old read this book, but if you're a married woman, it is a lot of it talking about like marital relationships and a lot of the struggles that women, especially at that time, were having, in where men thought they could get away with like murder, basically. Like, they were getting away with so much stuff. And if you've listened to Loretta Lynn's music, Patsy Cline's music, you'll kind of be able to know what's already, what I'm alluding to. Some of the, like, Don't Come Home Drunk, or, what are the other ones? But, you know, all of the, you know, cheating, lying, drinking, all of those things that were going on at that time. So, but it was beautiful, overarching story of female friendship. And then the last book is by Shannon Bream, The Women of the Bible Speak, which, if you'll remember, I read The Mothers and Daughters of the Bible Speak from her last month. The Wisdom of 16 Women and Their Lessons for Today. So here is that book. So the other book was pink. This one is blue. And honestly, I didn't even know that she had two of them until I went to Hobby Lobby. And then when I went to the library last time, they had the blue one back in stock. So this one was awesome. It is broken up in a similar way where they do two women at a time, like Rachel and Leah, or Sarah and Hagar, or Hagar, however you say that, Hagar. I'm not entirely sure how you say that. And then it will be like, they'll do like Women of the Covenants. What is the other one called? Sisters and Rivals. And like, she does a lot of comparing and contrasting of the two women that are in that chapter. And she brings in, of course, like a lot of good, like, biblical text that she interweaves through her own narrative writing. She does a good job of pointing out a lot of what is not included in these women's stories, because, of course, we're not seeing their entire lives. We're just seeing a short snippet of how their lives relate to Jesus and furthering the gospel, and furthering God's ultimate storyline and plan of Jesus coming and redeeming us from our sins. So it's really beautiful. I love the way she, like, paints the overall picture of what life was like for these women, giving good context. I think the book is excellent. I actually prefer this book over Mothers and Daughters of the Bible Speak. I don't know why necessarily. I just felt like I was more engaged with this book than the other one. And so if you were going to pick between the two of them to read, I would read this one. Not that the other one's bad, but this is just my preference. So, 3 really great books again. Loretta Lynn, Me and Patsy Kicking Up Dust. And we've got The Natural Cozy Cottage, 100 Styling Ideas to Create a Warm and Welcoming Home, and The Women of the Bible Speak, The Wisdom of 16 Women and Their Lessons for Today. So that is those 3 books, and I will be taking these back to the library. So we'll go to the next part of the reviews. Hey y'all, I'm going to give you a couple of quick reviews before I take these books back to the library, which will have to be quick because I actually need to leave the house about right now as I'm filming this. So I only have 2 books to review this week. One that I really, really enjoyed, one that I didn't so much. We'll start with the one that I didn't like so much. It was She Come By It Natural by Sarah Smarsh, Dolly Parton, and the Women Who Lived Her Songs. So normally I am a big fan of Dolly Parton books. I love the biography that she wrote. I think that book is like super awesome. I think it's Dolly Parton, My Life and Other Unfinished Business. I think she wrote that back in the 90s. Love that book. Highly recommend that book if you haven't read it. This one, I thought it was going to be more, I thought it was going to be anecdotes about women and like how their lives connected to specific songs. So like maybe somebody whose life looked like Down from Dover, or, you know, that sort of a thing. I thought it was going to be like people whose lives are similar, like somebody whose life was similar to the Jolene song, and like how when they heard the Dolly Parton song, like they felt really validated. That's what I thought it was going to be. Instead it was really political, more so than I would like, and there were none of those anecdotes. I mean, she just briefly makes mention of like the women who were living Dolly Parton songs when she was writing that music, but she doesn't give like specifics. I was hoping for specifics. Honestly, that's what I was hoping, was for women talking about how they connected to her songs when she was releasing them, and how they related to their own lives. That's what I thought it was going to be. It wasn't that. It was just largely a lot of political statements, which I don't really care to read. I don't like to read about politics because I don't find it interesting. So that was something I was not a big fan of. So when it comes to this book, I don't recommend it. So I think there's better Dolly Parton books out there, including her biography that she wrote. I thought that was really good. I even had a third book I tried to read this week, and I only got 50 pages in, so I'm not even going to mention it because I can't give it a full review because I didn't read all of it. But needless to say, just didn't care for it. Now this book I loved, and I actually am considering buying it for myself, which tells you how good it is. The book is A Touch of Farmhouse Charm, Easy DIY Projects to Add a Warm and Rustic Feel to Any Room by Liz Forez. So this is the book. I really, really enjoyed this, and I'm considering purchasing it. If you have a husband who loves woodworking, this is the book for you to give him ideas of things to make for you for your house, and gives the instructions. So it's just different DIY projects for your house, and they're rated on difficulty of like beginner, easy, advanced, and there's one that I'm actually specifically considering doing, which is making a doily gallery wall. So I don't have any embroidery hoops for that, but I'm hoping to thrift some. So this is actually super good. I think there's a lot of really good ideas in here. But especially if your husband, like my dad's really into woodworking, if your husband or your father or some other family member is really into woodworking, this is a really cool book to be able to like give them ideas of things that you might want or other things like that. But if you are not a DIY person, then I wouldn't recommend it because it is just a DIY book of different DIYs for different rooms in your house. But I thought it was really cute and I enjoyed reading through it, and it gave me some ideas of some things to look out for to thrift, to potentially put in my house and upcycle with some DIYs. So those are my 2 reviews, and on to the next reviews. Okay, now that you're back, I'm going to review one library book that I did not film the review of, and I don't have the book here with me, but it'd be pretty easy to find. It's called Office Ladies by Jenna Fisher and Angela, I think it's Kinsley or Kinsey, I can't remember. But it is the 2 women who were on The Office that played Pam and Angela. They wrote a book together. They also have a podcast, which I think I've listened to a couple episodes, but not many. And I read that. It was a new book that my library had gotten in, and it was really good. I can really recommend it if you've seen The Office. Now, if you haven't seen it, then I wouldn't recommend it, of course. But it's just really neat to hear what a good set that they had and their friendship and how it's changed throughout the years. And I think it's just a really beautiful book on female friendship and some of the interesting behind the scenes stories from The Office, the show. So it's really good. If your library has it, I would definitely recommend it. It was a good read. And I've read some other books this month that I didn't include in my recommendations if I didn't finish them or if they were like a cookbook, because sometimes I will check out cookbooks just to like browse through from my library. So unless I like really loved it, made something from it and was like, oh, I have to recommend this, that'd be the only reason I would share it. Because, sometimes cookbooks are harder, I feel like, to recommend because everybody's tastes are so different. So these are the books that I read from my own library here this month. So the first book, I didn't have a whole lot of variety these past 2 months, so you'll have to forgive me for that. But the first one is The Women of Faith Overjoyed, Devotions to Tickle Your Fancy and Strengthen Your Faith. I love the Women of Faith series books. I've read one other one, which I cannot remember what it was called. I think it was called something about joy. I don't know, but I love any of their Women of Faith books. I think they're wonderful. I love their stories. So it is, I think this one's about 200 pages. And how this was set up, each section was a different theme, and they will have a verse and a story discussing that verse, like a story that relates to the overarching chapter, and then a prayer at the end. So some of the sections include, let's see, overalls covered in righteousness, or turning over a new leaf and finding the joy, and undergirded for the overtired, overloaded, and overwhelmed. So they're very cute. I really like these. They're nice, short little things. And this would be a book you could probably find used because I think it was published back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Oh, well, the message on this one is from the year 2000. So it's really sweet. If you've never read any of their books, I highly recommend them. And then I read the last, how many of these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last 5 books in the Blue Hill library series. So y'all, I've officially finished it. I finished the series. I loved it. I feel like in the Guidepost series, you really grow to love the main character and the cast of characters that are around them. And it's just amazing. All of these books were really good. This first book was Frozen in Time, and it was about a statue that gets stolen from the park, and about who would have even wanted this statue, where could it have gotten to? It couldn't have gotten that far. They think that the statue might also be hiding money in it, so that was very interesting. We had Agree to Disagree, which is that a new business is coming to town and trying to buy land, and the whole town is arguing about it. And then the land that is up for sale starts mysteriously having really bad things happen on them to try to keep the business from coming in. So this was very good, and I think it's a good book for our times right now, talking about agree to disagree, like that. Sometimes there's a right and a wrong answer for things, and then other times it's just gray. Like it's not this is the right thing and this is the wrong thing. Sometimes there's just a gray area between things, and how sometimes it's hard to see those gray areas when we get stuck into our own thing. The Not So Civil War is about a Civil War reenactment, and a heirloom firearm goes missing that was used in the Civil War. So that was really, really interesting. I feel like it doesn't go how you expect from the beginning of the book, so it's very interesting that it goes in a direction that you don't anticipate. Which, some people can predict the endings of mystery series. I'm not that way. I feel like I'm not somebody who's like, oh, I called this the whole time. I never know what's going on until the very end. And then this is Finding Home. This one was about the character Alex. He finds out that an account that was in his sister's name who passed away has been getting messed around with, and funds are going missing from an organization that's supposed to be helping people adopt children. So that was very interesting. I think it's another good book about how sometimes we can have gray areas in our lives, and people can convince themselves sometimes that a gray area is there when really it's a black and white answer. And then the last book, A Fitting Conclusion, which, as you can guess, there's a wedding in this book. An engagement ring, along with a cat, is found, and the engagement ring is worth like a ton of money, like a very expensive engagement ring. So they're trying to figure out whose cat is this, whose engagement ring this is, all while simultaneously another wedding is being planned at the library, which this is the final book in the series. And I really felt like it wrapped it up well. It wrapped up a lot of characters that we've seen throughout other books, and it was just, so heartfelt. It's one of those bittersweet things when you finish a series and you have to say goodbye to those characters, especially when you've loved like every book. I mean, some books, of course, were more my favorites than others, but I didn't dislike any of them. All of them are so good. They're the kind that you like just don't want to put down. I think the reading pace is really good. It's not highfalutin kind of reading. It's not challenging. It's a good relaxing read. It's a good book to read at the park or at the beach or anything like that. It's a good clean read. So I highly, highly, highly recommend the entire series of Secrets of the Blue Hill Library. I've had a pretty easy time finding most of these. Some I did have to ask for Christmas for my husband to buy me on eBay because I couldn't find them secondhand, but a lot of the times the Guidepost mystery books you can find secondhand at like used bookstores. I got some at my library's book sale that they do here. They take donations throughout the year of people's used books, and then they sell them as a benefit to the library. In fact, we have our $3 fill-a-bag sale coming up, so I am definitely looking forward to that. So I've started a new series, which is this one back here. And you can't really see it, but it's Mysteries of Martha's Vineyard. So you'll have to stay tuned to my next 2 months. I usually like to do these videos in 2 months, sometimes 3. I might do like 3 months for the summer, just depending, with like vacations and stuff like that. I usually don't get as much reading done. So you'll have to look forward to that. But I've already been reading some great library books this month, and cannot wait to film about those for you because there's some pretty good ones. So that is it for today's video. If you enjoy these book hauls and book recommendations, give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing because I do these every couple of months. And I review lots of different types of books. Of course, guideposts, Christian mysteries, and devotionals, and what else? What else do I like to read? Historical fiction. I'm reading a lot of nonfiction this month, actually, because my library had just a lot of really interesting nonfiction books. So you can expect all that and more here on this channel. So I will see you guys next week. Bye.